This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We are off and running on a Wednesday evening alongside Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. We're live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. I'll just say, folks, right out of the jump here, boy, icy walking in to the studio today as JVT and Mitch Moss just daggers into each other's hearts. I don't know how you guys are going to do it over the next couple of days. It is contentious. It is, I thought fisticuffs were going to go down. Maybe by Friday they will. Whew, man, I don't know. You want to tell the people what's going on? It's brutal between you and Mitch.
Mitch and I are head-to-head with these futures we got for the blackjack tournament, these free rolls. Man. So I am getting progressively angrier as we get closer to Saturday. So very much looking forward. Will Hill, if you're watching or listening, I apologize. We'll be together on Live Bet Saturday. Game starts at 3:09 p.m. Pacific time, and we will be on the air for that final hour. And
I'm going to make a call to Bill. And Steve, our two bosses, and I'm gonna see if Humans can do that show with you, because it was nothing better than sitting here on the night of the national championship as I watched Notre Dame. Now I didn't have any money on the line like you do, and Humans just I'm
pretty good
needling me a little bit as the show went on. So
I think I don't know, just were you here, because I know you were off recently. But you were here last Friday, right, when Auburn was playing Michigan. I think I kept it together relatively well.
Yeah, but now we're getting closer.
Yeah.
Now you're
you're
tasting the
What
money.
I'm saying is I kept it relatively well on the air. When I was sitting at Mega Bar with Chris Massaro, you could probably ask, it was not the same demeanor at all. So I keep it professional when we're on the air.
Chris Massaro, also very known as very calm.
Right. It was a really good presence to be in. He's a very calming guy. His his aura is a nice, soft yellow, right? So
he's got that soothing voice, too. He does it. It's not raspy at all.
No, not at all. So it was very, I was not getting egged on or agitated in any way, shape, or form when I was sitting there watching Auburn, which eventually came back. Which I got to say, I think Mitch said something around this where I don't fully agree, which was like, hey, the sweat's not really worth it. This is obviously a very fun sweat. This is great to have, a great position to be in. But having said that, I do find myself getting irrationally angry. Like, for example, the Michigan State game. You watched that.
Yeah.
I think, is it safe to say Auburn was pretty much in control, for a vast majority of that game?
I was not, I was not concerned. Now, the Michigan game, I could see the concern.
But to the point, though, the Michigan State game, I watched that at home by myself. I don't think I've been angrier watching something. And they were in control the whole game pretty much. And I was like, they're gonna blow it. Every time it got cut down to 9, I'm like, here we go. I'm texting Mitch. I'm like, this is a nightmare. So I can't wait to see what Saturday's like.
I would say, I wouldn't. It's not even up for debate. Of the two of us, the one who is much calmer with their bets is you by a million. But when I started to see some tweets come out from you on Sunday regarding the cover, now you also had Auburn in the contest, which was an important victory for you, kept you alive. You are now in striking distance of Paul Stone. But I started to see you tweet, and I'm like, man, this is unusual. This is not a normal. But now I forgot. Yeah. I forgot about the free roll as well. So
during the Michigan game, let's see, I think I got a like from Stormy's husband on this one. I tweeted out during the Michigan game, Auburn running the ass offense today. I see. So it's getting there. It's getting there. It's a very fun sweat though, and very much thankful to Derek and Mike for allowing me to participate and in a good
position. Got him at number 5.
Yep.
Got him at number 5. That is. It's a pretty good spot to be in. So I am fascinated to see how this all plays out. Saturday cannot get here soon enough. JVT versus Mitch Moss. That's the bigger battle. It's not Auburn, Florida. It's JVT versus Mitch Moss. All right. On the docket tonight, we've got a couple of games that are going to tip off here momentarily. None of them are our game of the night, but it is very important to you and I. The Sacramento Kings light the beam on the road in my whole neck of the woods, the Washington Wizards. Both you and I have win totals on this one, and the Kings now up to a 13.5-point favorite, which is what I love to see. That loss would be number 60 on the season, which would be good for our win total there. We've got Charlotte, Indiana, and we've got New York and Cleveland, all double-digit spreads.
Well, that's part of it today, too. We have, I believe, 9 games with double-digit spreads tonight. and one of them's at 9.5, and the other's a 3-point spread between Atlanta and Dallas. So this doesn't, on paper, look like an entertaining evening in the association, but you mentioned it. Sacramento and Washington going to be a big one for us. All these games are massive for the last few weeks because win totals are at stake.
Yep.
One of my 5 win totals that I have outside of Washington, the Denver Nuggets, a massive loss for me yesterday to get that Nuggets loss home against Minnesota Timberwolves.
You're going to send a thank you note to Russell Westbrook?
It was absolutely
Holy
great.
Smokes.
So for this one, I need, let me double check here. I need the Wizards to lose 3 more games. I believe that means you need the Wizards to lose 4 more games, if my math is correct, to clinch the under on this win total. 5 would get it over for me, so don't want that, but massive underdogs here, and rightfully so, against Sacramento Kings, despite the fact they can't beat anybody, are playing for a little bit of something as they are trying to stave off the Phoenix Suns in the run for the Western Conference play-in.
And could jump Dallas to try to get the 9 seed, so you would get home court in the play-in.
Yep,
tournament.
and as we know, the long injury list for the Washington Wizards as they try to lose these games. Malcolm Brogdon, Koulibaly's been out, Keshawn George, Kobe Jones, Corey Kispert, Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, JT Thor. We know the normal injuries here, and so here we are at 13.5. Not going to be surprised. Kings aren't bad, or excuse me, Kings aren't good, so would lean toward the Wizards on the spread, but you and I will be watching and rooting for Washington to lose this game.
That will be on, and I'll say this, on Monday night, Matt and I were having a ball watching The Crown. This is straight up pickup ball, at least the first round was, as on the opening number, we saw totals go 6-2 to the over. On the closing number, they went 5-3 to the over. Have not seen massive movements, and JVT, I don't think I've ever blindly bet really anything in my life, but heading into The Crown, I was like, you know what? Let's throw some on the overs here. So that was good. I have moved off of that. I do have Boise State closing out a money line parlay. So Butler, Boise State, and Nebraska, Georgetown. The Nebraska, Georgetown number keeps going up because we have no idea who the hell is going to play for Georgetown. They're dealing with, I believe, a sickness. They are now a 10-point underdog. So those games taking place over at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Not the massive movement, actually a little bit of movement towards the under in Boise State and Butler. So,
I just want to point out really quickly, too, not to get us back because I forgot to mention this with the 3 NBA games that are getting started here. Should also note New York and Cleveland. First off, did bet this game over 229.5, so that's going to be something we're going to be monitoring throughout the day. The other part is New York 2 losses away from their clinching the under on their win total and 10.5-point underdogs tonight. So would very much like, as somebody who has a win total contest under on them, would very much like them to lose this game as well. So we'll be rooting for these. And if Charlotte can pull it off, it would be great, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
And the fourth and final game in the opening hour of the program, Miami at Boston. Right now, Boston a 10 or 10.5-point favorite. But believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, our game of the night is going to be on the diamond. So let's get to it.
The lights are on and the stakes are high. It's the primetime game of the night.
Well, it has gone final. The San Diego Padres now off to a 7-0 start to the year as they beat the Cleveland Guardians 5-2 earlier this afternoon. Meaning, could the Padres be the last unbeaten team? Because our game of the night, JVT, 7-0 Los Angeles Dodgers against the 0-6 Atlanta Braves. Blake Snell on the hill for the Dodgers. Right now, depending on where you look, we'll call it a minus 230-ish favorite. We have the circle lines up there, minus 216 if you do want to get on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And if you think the Braves finally get a victory, you can get them at 2-1. And I might be intrigued to look at the Atlanta Braves. Do the Braves finally get in the win column tonight against the Dodgers?
I mean, if they do, I think I'd rather go maybe team total over on Atlanta here. If you think that they're going to potentially have a shot at winning this game. Now, you're right, like price-wise, it seems crazy, right? The Braves here in this spot with the opposing team being minus 216. Problem is, Bryce Elder has not pitched particularly well in the times we've seen him in the majors. Last year, hard contact was a really big bugaboo of his in 49 2/3 innings, 6.52 ERA, 4.56 fielding independent, barrel rate of nearly 9%, a hard hit rate of nearly 50%, actually at 45. So you're going to give up a lot of runs, it would seem, or at least a lot of contact, and this Dodgers team is going to take advantage. So if you're going to be able to match that, one would assume maybe you go over your team total here for Atlanta. So if you think this is going to be competitive for the Braves, if you think they can win, I'd lean over the total here or over Atlanta's team total. I'm also interested to see what Blake Snell has to offer. Actually didn't give up a ton of hard contact in the lone start, but did, I don't want to say labored through, but got through 5 innings of work in his first start. If you like the advanced metrics, ERA of 3.60 in the start, but a 4.45 FIP, got away with a little bit of something against the Tigers. Does he get got here is the real question. Again, lean toward over the team total for Atlanta, especially if we think this is going to be it. But how about this, Tim? Price getting so out of whack. Do you go plus 1.5, minus 105 on the Atlanta Braves on the run line? Getting the Braves, the winless Braves, at just minus 105 to stay inside a 1.5.
Maybe you have to do that. You can actually get an even money out there at the Westgate Superbook on the Braves on the run line. That's wild to think about. By the way, if you are doing the tactic that our friend Chris Massero is doing, betting the Dodgers on the run line every game this year, we'll see how long it lasts.
Minus 115.
Got to lay $1.15 against the Braves, but they are 6-1.
Ooh, here we go.
On that.
Plus 105, I'm looking at Atlanta, plus 1.5. Let's do it. Why not?
All right, quick update on who's going to be joining us. That's JVT. Total. I'm Tim Murray. Jim Root, our good friend from the three-man weave, before he embarks down to San Antonio, will jump on the show coming up bottom of the hour. We'll talk to Zachary Cohen in hour number 2. A little odds and trends for the Final Four with Evan Abrams at 9 o'clock Eastern. And then Steve Sands, the latest on the Valero Texas Open. He will join us live from San Antonio at 10 o'clock Eastern. What are you hooping about?
It's always good to find extra money in your account. I don't know what the heck.
So are we doing, what's our official play? We're going to take Braves run line?
I'm going Braves over 3.5 team total and plus 1.5 on the run line.
All right, there it is. That's JVT. I'm Tim Murray. Come on back. It is VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
It is VSiN Primetime here on this Wednesday evening alongside Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. We're live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas, underway in the land, Cleveland and the New York Knicks, as that game just started. I did look at our friends over at Stations Casino on our game of the night, Dodgers and Braves. And they are, and this is, as you could speak to much better than I, this is a Dodgers town. And
unfortunately,
for now, until the A's come here and run this city, this is a Dodgers town, and Stations is a local book. So there's no doubt they're getting peppered with Dodgers money. Plus 115 for the Braves on the run line.
Yeah. So I found plus 105. I played that, and that was before you found the plus 115. So let's take a piece of this. Yeah. See if the Braves can stay inside of 1.5 games, or should be 1.5 runs, and maybe get over their team total. I went over 3.5, by the way, on the team total as well. I think we mentioned that too. So we will see. That was plus 1.5, plus 105, and over 3.5, plus 120 for the Braves total runs.
Man,
come on,
Dodgers Braves, baby. Chavez Ravine. That is our game of the night, and we'll keep you updated on it. It doesn't start until a little after 8:30 Eastern this evening. It was Paul Skeens Day as the Buccos got the win earlier today. I double check. I don't think he went over his strikeout prop. Paul Skeens, the bum, 6 strikeouts, 7 innings, 1 unearned run, 3 hits, ERA down to $1.46, and the Pirates get their second win of the year. Paul Skeens and the Pirates went 4-2 earlier today, so they get the victory there. Fresh off of that GQ photo shoot. I don't know if you saw those pictures.
Oh, I saw something about that. Well, yeah, what happened?
I don't know. There's silly photos there.
By the way, the Rays not playing at the Trop, correct? Playing at this different park does not seem to have the same effect as the small sample size yet, and still noteworthy of where the A's are playing. Did you see this today? 10-2, Cubs win over the Athletics. Double-digit runs in each of the 3 games that they have played out there in Sacramento. Now, I would argue that it's not the ballpark. I think a lot of people maybe believe that could be the case, but the A's didn't take advantage. It was just the Cubs. So maybe it's just the pitching. for the Oakland Athletics, but still, I'm going to keep doing it. The A's. Regardless, we will see if that is something, but very much worth pointing out the early going that 3 games in the new park for the Athletics, 3 games that have gone over the total, 3 games that have scored at least 11 or more runs, and it has been quite the series for the Cubs, which finished off today 10-2 win for Chicago.
Circling back to Paul Skeens real quick, John Ewing from BetMGM tweeted out prior to the start for Paul Skeens, over under 7.5 strikeouts for Skeens, 80% of the money on the over, so that does not cash. He finishes with 6 strikeouts over 7 innings, gives up 1 unearned run. College basketball going on. Mentioned we got the Crown here in town. The NIT Championship is tomorrow, but of course the Final Four gets going on Saturday down in San Antonio. Houston Duke is the nightcap. Florida Auburn the early game, and Auburn has actually played all of the teams in the Final Four this year. They played Houston in their second game of the season in Houston, but not at the Houston Arena. They played Duke, and they also played Florida. I was telling you about this earlier before we came on the air.
That's really interesting.
Florida and Auburn played on February 8th. Elijah Martin did not play for Florida on that day. The total in that game was 155. The total for Saturday is 160. But I think the more interesting thing is the point spread. Now, remember, this game took place at Auburn, the Jungle. Auburn closed as an 11-point favorite. Less than 2 months ago, the Auburn Tigers were an 11-point favorite against Florida. They lost the game, 90-81. And now, JVT, they are a 2.5-point underdog. And I would say this, and you and I were talking to Mitch before he left, and you actually kicked him out of the studio, which I thought was a little rude. But this number probably would have been higher if they had played immediately following the SEC championship game. But still, a 13.5-point difference. Granted, one was on Auburn's home floor, and this is on a neutral. But a 13.5-point move? Oh, my.
Well, Florida has been dominant and covered 3 straight coming into this
They have
game.
not.
Oh, okay. Is that Auburn that has covered 3 straight in the tournament heading into this? Yeah, I think so. Well, at least Florida has multiple double-digit wins to its ledger over big. Oh, wait, no, they struggled with. Look, I'm just saying this. The premise I think that we're getting at here, removing where I'm at with this Auburn team, I actually do think this number is a little high. And I would still be on Auburn and waiting for a 3 to potentially appear here so you can grab it. Bart Torvik, I believe, has this as a 1 point. I think it's like 1.2. I was looking yesterday in favor of Auburn. You can double check that for me. I could be reading it wrong. But regardless, this is only 1 point spread for Ken Pom as well. So, like, this is one where the market, I think,
Bart Torvik has it Auburn minus 1.2.
Yeah, right. And this is only a 1 point spread in favor of Florida for Ken Pom. The whole point here being, I think the market's just a little too high in Florida. And I do think the market's a little low in Auburn. I mean, you look at these games, despite the fact that Auburn has been less than consistent on offense, I would say that's a fair criticism of the Tigers throughout this tournament. Tim, as I mentioned, they've covered 3 straight. They covered against Creighton. They covered against Michigan. They covered against Michigan State. And in large part, their defense has actually been very good throughout this tournament. It's just their offense has been all over the place. And I'll continue to call them out, but it's not a negative. But Chad Baker-Mazara really has not been consistent for this team in any way. They were lucky that Todd Pettiford decided to explode down the stretch here. That includes the last few games of the regular season into the SEC tournament. But I do think that when you look at this Auburn team, I think they've been a little bit more consistent than when Florida's shown. I mean, you can make the argument. I don't think anybody would disagree. Florida's very lucky to be here. After what happened against Texas.
Look,
Tech.
you're down 9 with less than 3 minutes to go. I mean, they go to media timeout, the final media timeout of the game. You're down 6. It increases to 9. And look, I think Todd Golden and the Florida Gators obviously deserve a ton of credit for the fouls to force Texas Tech to shoot the free throws. They missed both front ends. They hit some big threes, of course. They deserve credit, but they needed an 18-4 run to get to the Final Four, right? Man, that would have been a crushing blow to me if Texas Tech didn't even cover that. I had Texas Tech to win the West region, which I was talking to the Bear on Sunday. 5, right? Yeah. Got a layup late there. That was helpful to get us there. But, yeah, I mean, this Florida team tied at halftime against UConn. UConn had some open looks that I think could have had a chance to win that game. Maryland ran out of gas in the second half and maybe a little distracted from their coach be having a Villanova shirt underneath his suit on that Sweet 16 performance. But to be a 2.5-point dog after you were an 11-point favorite, granted, as I mentioned, Florida was missing a key cog. They won that game 90-81.
Elijah Martin is worth 13.
He's not, yes, of course. I know, but it's just, I'm just pointing it out.
For our audience, yes, yeah.
How about this, though? I was looking this up, too. The Houston Cougars, who are right now a 5-point underdog, I think the 5.5 still is out there at DraftKings, but we'll call it 5 consensus right now, might go up. They have been an underdog one time in the last 3 seasons. And that was earlier this year on January 25th at Kansas, where they were a 1-point underdog. They won that game as well. So if you go over to Team Rankings, the website there, and you look up the best teams against the spread as an underdog over the last 3 years, it's the Houston Cougars because they are 1-0 against the spread.
100%.
I said it on Monday. I don't know if there's still a race to take 5 with Houston because we're eventually going to see the money coming in on the Duke Blue Devils, I would imagine, a lot, especially money line parlays, which apparently can't lose. They're in the NCAA tournament. Look, Duke is awesome. Like, I'll just start it there. Duke's incredible. I think they are the best team in the country. I picked them to win the national championship. But 5 points and maybe 5.5, I don't know if we get to 6. That is a lot for a Houston team that's going to want to kind of drag you into the mud, play this thing physical. I think Duke can also play that way. Duke is elite defensively. I think this can be, showing in the total 136, JVT, I think this could be a low-scoring game as well.
I would agree. When to the point of Houston, too, I really do like this team a lot. I've had to sit here and defend Houston's honor with Matt Youmans.
Yeah, I was going to say, the other guy on the desk is not he came on the Sunday show and was talking all this Tennessee mumbo-jumbo. I'm like, okay, Matt, all right.
Yeah, that's not no shot at you. I understand where you stand, but I've defended this Houston Cougars team for quite a while.
I feel like a butt's coming.
No, I know, and I do have a future on them at 12-1. The only other future I have left alive here, so I am very much pulling for them. Contest-wise, though, I don't know. I'm getting some information. I have to fade these Cougars.
Yeah, there might have been a video out there from Mr. Paul Stone, a.k.a. the leader, saying that Houston...
What if he's sending out fake signals, though?
Ooh.
What if he's trying to get me?
Man. Yeah. See, I'm 3.5 points back. I got to do what I got to do. I'm trying to take you out so I can get... By the way, shouts to Al Scallion over there at Dom DeMarco's. Had a little chicken parm today.
I'm trying to take my family out, huh?
Yeah.
To dinner. At Berries, baby. We ain't giving up.
Your kids aren't allowed into Berries.
Well, I'm not going to take them anyway.
Hey, just a reminder, folks, check out what we have to offer, including those Circa College Hoops contest plays coming out on Friday. You get them sent to you if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, $9.99, VSIN.com/subscribe. Jim Root joins us next right here on VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Keep it rolling. Here it is. I mean, the lengths will go.
Got to do what you got to do to win.
During the break, JVT was listening to Jimmy Ott, our good friend down at ESPN Baton Rouge, with Paul Stone, breaking down the Final Four, knowing what plays he's more than likely going to throw in on Friday for the Circa College Hoops Challenge.
Hey man, we gotta compete. I'm 2 points back.
Respect the game.
Want to win this thing, and Paul should have done the pod. Just gonna say that.
You should have been like, Jimmy, I respectfully decline. I got $1,000 to berries on the line.
And maybe he just did this all on purpose to put red herring, put me on a fake trail.
That would be impressive. That would be impressive to see. All right. Let's get to our progressive guest line and bring in our good friend, also part of the Circa College Hoops Challenge. It is Jim Root from the three-man weave at Second Chance Points, who's wheels up down to San Antone tomorrow to take in all the goodness of the Final Four. Let's just start big picture, Jim. We've got 4 1s for the first time since 2008, second time ever. And then you look at some of the advanced numbers. This might be the greatest Final Four on paper we've ever seen. So I know there's been a lot of think pieces about the death of Cinderella. Where are you on this Final Four on your level of excitement heading into Saturday night?
I'm an 11 out of 10 on excitement. I can't wait. I was bummed out 2 years ago when it was San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, UConn, and UConn was rolling people, and Miami made it. I want to see the best teams when I go down there. You can give me, one or two Cinderellas. I'm not demanding all one seeds every time, but I want to see some high level clashes, and I think we'll get that. Even if the games aren't like down to the wire buzzer beaters, I know that for 5 months these were the best the best 4 teams in the entire sport, and they separated themselves analytically, resume wise, however you want to look at it. I'm pumped to have them. I'm not burying Cinderellas yet. I think it's easy to, in one tournament, want to say, well, we got to have a full takeaway from this and decide project everything based off this one tournament. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is kind of a special year with how good these teams are. It's the last COVID year. I think that has helped some of the top teams as well. So I'm not ready to make a grand proclamation on the future of the tournament. I'm just content with this incredible Final Four we've got here, and I hope we get the games to match.
Nah, it's all dead. It's over. It's terrible. Shut it down. Just turn it into the BCS. We'll just take 4 teams, and that's it. All right, so let's go to Auburn. A very interesting game. Tim brought up the great point here. When they played the first time, Jim, and this was at home for Auburn, this was a double-digit point spread in favor of the Tigers. Now in a neutral, they are an underdog. But I want to start with John Broome. How do you handle, from a rating standpoint, Auburn, with the thought that Johnny Broome might be injured, but it's a non-shooting arm, and Bruce Pearl says he's not injured. We know he's going to play. How have you handled this Broome thing?
Yeah, I've knocked them a little bit just because I don't think he's going to be as mobile or as willing. I definitely think he's going to play. And, he hit the shot when he came back in. He hit the 3, and some of his game is not athleticism based, like his footwork in the post and stuff. That's very repeatable, even with sort of banged up ankle, a hyperextended sore elbow. I think some of that stuff is still going to be just fine. But it may be like defending in space. I think Florida's really going to look at attacking him. They're a great game planning staff in Gainesville, and I think they're going to really try to make him prove that he's fully healthy and willing to go with both arms, both elbows. They'll get that specific with it. I think really attack him in that lens. So I'm curious to see how he looks. I'll try to get to the open practice on Friday and see how he's moving around. I won't be the only one making observations there, of course, but I'm curious to see if he looks full strength or if he is just kind of limited and getting through these 2 games rather than being at full strength.
Jim Root joining us here, courtesy of our progressive guest line, getting us ready for the Final Four, of course, on Saturday night. Jim, part of our Circa College Hoops contest. Those picks will be announced on Friday here on VSiN Primetime. Word through the grapevine is we got Jimmy props over here. So you got a prop bet you're looking at here in Auburn and Florida?
Yeah, I dug into a little bit. We were doing an Action Network preview for the Final Four, which I think comes out tomorrow on the BBOC feed there, so check that out. But yeah, I'm taking Walter Clayton over 3.5 assists. It was minus 130 when I bet it. I think it might have ticked up a little bit. Or actually it might have been minus 118 at FanDuel, so I'll take a peek at that. But he had 9 the first time these 2 teams played, and granted that was without Elijah Martin, so he had a little extra ball handling duty. But he's gone over that in 8 of his last 11, and the 3 he went under were Norfolk State, 16 seed game. He played less than 30 minutes, not his normal workload. And then 2 other games where the opponent slowed the game down, Tennessee and UConn. A game with a total of 159.5, 160. I don't see this game being all that slow. I think it gets up and down. He's a great passer. I think he'll have enough options. And I think Auburn's probably watched him bury enough clutch threes that they're going to try to get the ball out of his hands. So I think that has a lot of value there. Even with the juice you have to drink for it, I'm willing to ride with Walter Clayton there over 3.5 assists.
So in big picture, just to clarify as well, Florida Auburn side, what do you make of this number, and what are you going to do?
Yeah, I see the point with the value where it's like, man, what an extreme change. But, if you go based Bart Torvik's rankings at the start of, you set the time constraint at the start of when they played, February 8th, Florida's 3-point favorite. And that's like 14 or 15 point game, or 14 or 15 games each of a sample size. So it's a lot more current form based. And, should we be throwing out November, December right now for these 2 teams? That's debatable. But I think there's a way you can get there and make this kind of reasonable, especially if you think Broom's going to be a lot lower than his usual self. Now, Alex Condon might also be a little bit limited with his ankle. He was huge in the first meeting when Florida just completely mauled Auburn on the road. He had a double-double and basically dominated the paint. But I just think this is kind of a bad matchup for Auburn. Florida's got a lot of guards that can score, and you can pick on some of the weaker defenders. Like Pettiford's going to have to really hold up against some guys coming downhill at him, whether it's Richard or even Aberdeen off the bench has shown he can score. And then the paint domination has really gone Florida's way. And Auburn's biggest weakness, I would say, is their defensive rebounding. Cardwell and Broom like to gamble for blocks. If you go after the offensive glass, you can have success. Every team that's beaten Auburn has had 10-plus offensive rebounds. Texas A&M had almost 25 against them. Like, that is a real flaw against Auburn, and Florida is one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. I think they're kind of okay with this matchup. If they had to pick one of these three teams, I think they'd be picking Auburn to play against right now. So I lean towards the Gators, but I get that the numerical value for a full season might not really be there, so I haven't bet it.
All right, let's get to the nightcap on Saturday. Houston and Duke, in my opinion, and the metrics would bear this out. The two best teams in the country are going head-to-head in the semifinal in Houston and Duke. I like this Houston team a lot, maybe not as much as JVT does, but look, we all know what Duke has been. They're an absolute freight train, even though they didn't cover against Arizona, but they've been unbelievable. What do you make of this number, though, at 5? I went back and I looked. Over the last 3 years, Jim, Houston has been an underdog once, and it was by 1 point earlier this year to Kansas, and now they're catching 5 here on Saturday night.
Yeah, it certainly tells you how good Duke is. The fact that this isn't, moving off of 5 in the market is that people really buy how good Duke is, because I think Houston's fantastic. They're number 2 in every analytical ranking. They're even number 1 in Bart Torvik. And if you go back through that same, since February, Duke's like a 1-point favorite. I know that Duke is scary, and just the way they manhandled Alabama in the Elite Eight is probably fresh on people's minds. But I think it's too big, and I'll probably end up biting on Houston as we get closer to game time. I haven't committed yet, but I think they're well built to slow the game down and beat Duke with physicality, the same way Clemson did at Littlejohn. They kind of took Flag out of rhythm by throwing a bunch of physical, bigger, more mature players at him. And that's exactly what Houston can do with Roberts and Tugler. And even Francis can kind of move with him at times. Arsenault gives you a smaller, more rangy option if you want to go to it. And if you get Flag a little out of rhythm, I know Duke's offense is really well oiled right now, the way they've got Knipple coming off screens and Proctor hitting stuff and getting lobs like crazy to Malawach. I just think Houston's kind of well built to be the antidote here. I've compared it to 2015 when Wisconsin's elite offense was kind of the antidote to 2015 Kentucky, undefeated team going into that Final Four, one of the best we've ever seen. And Wisconsin pulled off the upside on that night. I don't know if Houston's going to win outright, but I think 5's too many points here.
All right, before we let you run, Jim, got about a minute. Any thoughts on the total here? If Houston is to cover, like I think you and I both believe they will, is this a correlation to the under?
Yeah, I would think under here. Houston's going to try desperately, I think, to slow it down. I mean, these two last year in the NCAA tournament played like 54 possession game, and now Duke is completely different identity-wise last year, and Shed isn't around anymore, kind of getting up and down a little bit for Houston. But it's very clear that they want to slow it, and I think Duke is a little bit of a pace taker right now, where they're like, we can beat you at your game. We're not that worried about it. We'll get up and down with Alabama if we have to. We'll play half court if we need to. They're more comfortable in transition because they rock that way, but I don't think they're going to have some great exertion to crank this game up to a better tempo, and that certainly tilts it towards the under.
He is Jim Root. Safe travels, sir, down to the Final Four. Always appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you for having me, guys. Very pumped for this weekend. Enjoy.
Thanks, Jim.
3-Man Weave. Check out all their content and at Second Chance Points. That's JVT. I'm Tim Murray. We'll get you updated on all the action that's going on right now on the ice and on the hardwood. It is. And the diamond. How could I forget baseball? VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
It is VSiN PrimeTime alongside Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. NBA, 9 games on the card tonight, but it is not great. Not a great card, at least on paper. You never know. Sometimes these nights surprise us, and maybe we'll get a double overtime thriller like we got last night between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. We've got some news regarding the Denver Nuggets we will get to here in just a moment, but we've got 4 games underway, 3 of them really underway. Miami and Boston just tipped off. JVT, I don't like the score of the nation's capital right now. We need the Kings to wake up. It's only a 3-point deficit, but 35-32 right now is the score. 9 minutes to go in the second quarter. Wizards with that 3-point lead. Pre-flop total or pre-flop spread was around, 13.5? Is that what we closed at?
Yeah.
Now 9.5 in game. Pacers and Hornets 38-27. Pacers up 11, and that spread is now 19.5.
So with this is one where I'm kicking myself a little bit. Hindsight's 2020. 13.5 seemed like a really big number for a Kings team that's in a play-in race, and a Washington Wizards team that has shown some competency here down the stretch. I don't know if they're that far apart from one another that on a neutral you can make the argument Sacramento's 15-ish points better than the Wizards. Seemed a little strong, didn't have the courage, and here they are up by 3 in the second quarter. Crazier things have happened, so we will see. But very much interesting number, and Sacramento not holding up their end of the bargain right now.
Well, the one team that's not holding up their end of the bargain, how about the Cleveland Cavaliers? Went off as a 10.5-point favorite tonight, and right now, JVT, the Knicks have a 13-point lead over the Cavs. Is this a spot to maybe look at Cleveland in game, where Cleveland, despite being down 13, is still the favorite at -1.5?
What's the total you got?
Total 236.5.
Trending over. That's something I like. Over 229.5. Something I'm sweating out here. I will say the initial thought is, look to Cleveland, especially if the Knicks can hold this lead going into halftime. The Knicks are shooting 65% from the floor, 8 of 12 from beyond the arc. You would assume that would regress to the mean. Cleveland themselves are actually shooting a pretty decent clip, 50% from 3, 45% from the floor. One would assume that there is some regression coming from New York. We always say it on this show, though. Regression is not guaranteed over the course of one game. Knicks could continue to shoot the lights out here against Cleveland. It's also worth pointing out that Cleveland, over these last few games, has kind of slipped on defense and has been a little has not played to their standard, actually, is a way smarter way to put that. So I don't know if this is something you need to worry about for the Cavaliers or if this is just a flash in the pan. But you go back to about March 18th. They were on the road for the West Coast trip. It started in the Los Angeles Clippers. They have actually ranked in the 51st percentile or lower in each of those games but 2. So this has been one where this has been a below average Cavaliers defense for a while now. And you wonder if maybe this is something where the wheels are kind of falling off, or if it's just the doldrums of a long season and you're looking ahead to the postseason. But defensive issues have been a problem for Cleveland, and I don't think it's guaranteed that they would just bounce back here.
On the baseball front, the Dodgers, they play later tonight against the Braves. Our game of the night, we'll revisit that coming up top of the hour. But after 2 innings at Yankee Stadium, the Diamondbacks put up 4 spot on the Yankees. Carlos Rodon has given up 4 runs on 3 hits, walked a couple, gave up a homer in the first inning. So right now the Diamondbacks with a 4-0 lead on the New York Yankees there at Yankee Stadium.
And that's after yesterday where they went out to the Bronx and beat up on them. And the market moved in their direction there and here again today. Showing everybody that, hey, a 3-0 start against the Brewers maybe isn't all it's cracked up to be. And that the Yankees...
the Brewers got to win today, though, baby. Come on, good job, Brew Crew.
Good job, Brew Crew. But a lot of people were freaking out like this Yankees team. I saw one Yankees beat writer. I thought it was kind of funny. One Yankees beat writer after they beat up on nasty Nestor Cortez tweeted out, "Why were we worried about this lineup again?" It's like, buddy, we're 2 games in. And you're facing Nestor Cortez. Let's chill a little bit on the everything's fine. In that same game, they committed 5 errors, by the way, and the defense has been a little suspect. And then here we are again today, early on, but Zach Gallen doing his thing very early, so we'll see. But really, it's just about the pitching, whether or not it holds up. And so far, the D-backs have had the antidote for whatever the Yankees are slanging out there.
The betting favorite to win the crown here in Las Vegas, the Boise State Broncos, who are around 4-1 or so pre-tournament. They lead right now 44-34 over Butler. That game is trending over. Your live total in at the MGM Grand Garden Arena is 170.5 in a 46-36 game. The closing total was 154. Totals in the opening round, depending on where you looked, if you go off the closing number, 5-3 to the over, opening number, 6-2 to the over, and Boise State Butler is trending over. Still to come tonight in that tournament, Nebraska and Georgetown, where the Cornhuskers are a 10-point favorite. All right, later on tonight, JVT, the Denver Nuggets taking on the San Antonio Spurs. Denver, which I believe, let me double check this real quick, opened as high as 13.5, and last night at 11 p.m. Eastern and hung out there for about 2 hours. They were a 15-point favorite. It is down to 2.5. Why?
Well, nobody's playing for the Denver Nuggets. It's as simple as that. Reports are that everybody is going to rest for the Denver Nuggets.
Is Russell Westbrook going to rest?
I don't know.
Is he going to run into any San Antonio Spurs out there?
You can tell. I mean, you can decide whether or not that this is a positive or a negative. But Christian Brown ruled out. Aaron Gordon ruled out. Michael Porter Jr. ruled out. Jamal Murray ruled out. Nikola Jokic ruled out. So that's their entire starting five that is not going to play here today. Obviously, a very big blow. Still favored. So would very much like this Spurs team to pull off the upset. We'll be watching in earnest. And big on the win total, man. Big on the win total last night to get that loss. That is absolutely massive. Right now, the way it stands, if you're like me and have under 50.5 on this Nuggets team, you need 3 more losses in the last 6 games. And this would go a long way toward doing it. But nobody can get this right, Tim, where if you remember about 2 weeks ago, the Nuggets didn't play anybody. They were double-digit underdogs to the Warriors, and they won the bleeping game. So, can we please, I need something back here. Maybe I got it last night, but would very much enjoy the Spurs pulling this off. But big win total implications last night, and big that they're actually resting everybody here as well.
Should I play? Let me ask you this, because I've had my jokes, but Russell Westbrook is at his best when it is he against the world. DraftKings right now has his point total sitting at 22.5. Do we get a Russell Westbrook nuclear night after the embarrassing finish and the fact that he is pretty much the only living, breathing Nugget playing tonight?
What's his odds on a triple-double?
Ooh, let me find that for you.
I mean, that's what you really... I mean, if you're going to get nuclear Russ, who cares about points?
I was looking. They don't have his... DraftKings doesn't have his points, rebounds, assists up right now. Triple-double. Hold on. This is live television at its finest, and it is not currently listed.
I'll find it for you.
Yeah, well, we will.
But I think if you're going nuclear Russ, I mean, I think that's the way you're going.
Might have to get in on a little triple-double or something with Russ coming off of that last night. All right, while we look for that, we'll get you that top of the hour. That game doesn't tip off until the 9 o'clock Eastern hour. We did see the straw poll come out. Maybe not as anticipated as we've seen in recent years, but it is coming off of a 61-point triple-double from Nikola Jokic, albeit in a loss last night. Yeah, he's not too good. But the straw poll, courtesy of Tim Bontemps over at... Yes, what we got?
425 on the yes for Russ Westbrook triple-double. I'm looking at BetMGM, by the way.
Should we hit that?
You can hit that. I just need a loss, and I don't think a Russ Westbrook triple-double would be good for me.
So the straw poll came out today. 100 voters chimed in, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got 77 of the 100 first-place votes for NBA MVP. Is it over, JVT, or is there a glimmer of hope for Nikola Jokic to win this award?
So I actually maybe said so missing time down the stretch probably doesn't help. Having said that, last night he was incredible. This poll was obviously put together before that performance. And I actually thought Tim Bontemps on the Windhorse podcast, Hoop Collective, had a really good point here, which was on the surface, this is 77 to 23. That looks like a pretty big gap. But as he put it, and I'll use his term, with this being a binary choice, in other words, it is one or the other.
Yep.
And this is not the same pool that votes for MVP. This is a pool of reporters, media members that he acquires, but this is not every MVP voter. So it's not exactly the accurate representation. It's pretty in line, but it's not exactly the same representation. So, in other words, if you flip a few, it might be a little bit closer than we think, especially if Jokic continues to perform at the level he is. Again, he just had that performance last night, albeit in a loss. Still an incredible game. I think that this is closer than minus 2,000 would indicate for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But as we always say with these awards, all right, I might be right. and the final vote tally's like 65-35. What does that really do for you?
Right. You're still
lost. Yeah.
Still got a losing bet.
I was
there.
right, and yet you still lost.
Hey, just a reminder, folks, especially as we get close to the Final Four, if you want to know which way the public is betting, well, we've got the betting splits from both DraftKings and Circa, and you can get access to those for as little as $9.99. Head on over to VSiN.com/subscribe and become a VSiN Pro subscriber. VSiN's exclusive betting splits data is just one of the many benefits you get as a VSiN Pro subscriber. It is VSiN Primetime.